This is the sticky, stringy water experiment. Okay, so what do you need for this one? Well, here it is all in front of me. You need some sort of cup. Now, as you can see, I'm using these plastic cups, quite pretty actually, and I'm using a see-through one because I want you to see what's happening inside. But you don't need to, but I'm using a see-through one. It is plastic. I recommend not using glass, whatever you use. Try and find a plastic cup, that's great. I'm using a big plastic jug for this, as you can see, and I've almost filled it with water, and I've put some food colouring in, only because it's going to be a bit easier for you to see what's going on with the food colouring, but otherwise just use ordinary clear water and that's fine. So cold water. I've got, this is a lace piece of rope essentially, but this is a boot lace, okay? So this is the one I'm going to use, and I've got some kitchen towel, which I recommend you have on hand because you may need it. And probably a good place to do this, bearing in mind it could get a bit messy or a bit wet depending how well you do things, in the kitchen, over the sink or near the sink would be a good place. So what do I want you to do first? Well, so far we've set up pretty much as I want. So get a jug of water, put the water in, get a cup ready. I'm using a lace. You could try something different, but we'll go for this for the minute. Basically, the first thing I'm going to do and want you to do is wrap the lace a couple of times just around my hand so I've got a good grip here. And then I'm going to hold the jug here at the back, okay? What I want to do is I'm going to have the string coming over out through the spout in a minute, going down into that glass. But before I do that, what I actually want you to do is dip the lace in the water and soak it. Okay, so soak it in there. Just move it around, give it a good soaking. Remember, it's made of a fabric or cloth of some type usually, in string, some sort of stringy fabric, and it will be absorbent, so the liquid, the water will actually go inside of it and soak it. Okay, I'll take it out and get it out in a little bunch, and just give it a little bit of a wring out with your hand. Just give it a bit of a squeeze. You don't have to get too much out, just give it a bit of a squeeze to get most of it off. Okay, bit of a squeeze. Okay, so we now have basically a piece of wet lace. Now what I'm going to do again, remember, is wrap it around my fingers, hold the jug here nice and firmly. Now notice I'm using a great big jug, which is actually quite heavy, so be careful with this. Make sure you've got one you can hold easily enough. I'm going to lift it in the air. I'm going to trail the lace over the end of the spout, go down to the glass. Now look where I've put it into the glass, the back edge of the glass, furthest away from the jug, okay? What I want you to do, this is the bit I hope you've got up to so far, is slowly tip the jug as if you're going to pour the water out through the spout. Off you go. Now hopefully this is what you saw happen. Watch carefully. See the water running down the string into the cup. Look carefully. Remember, pour slowly, very slowly. Running down the string into the cup. Can you see it filling into the cup? And I think I'm right in saying that most of it is staying on the string. I shook it there a little bit and some fell off. But while I can keep it steady, pretty much it all goes down the string. Amazing. Jolly good. So how come the water stayed pretty much clinging to the string and the boot lace as it flowed down? It hardly any dripped off. What's going on there? Well, it's all to do with the properties of water, mostly. Now, of course, water is wet. Now, here's an interesting question. Why is water wet? Well, water is wet because it's sticky in a rather strange way, not like glue feels. It feels different, but it is still sticky. And we've got a special name for this stickiness. It's called cohesion. So when water particles, what we actually should call water molecules, stick to themselves, they grip each other and stick to each other by a force called cohesion. So they're all sticking together. Now, water molecules also stick to other things. So for example, it sticks to your skin, doesn't it? When it sticks to another thing, that force is called adhesion. that might be familiar to you if you think of the other name for glue. Sometimes you call glue adhesive. Okay, so that's where that comes from. So by adhesion, water sticks to other things. When we put the lace here and held it at this angle and we poured the water down, remember the lace was already wet, so it already had water layer all over it and inside it. So there's already water there. And I've just told you water sticks to itself by a force called cohesion. So as I poured the water out from the jug, the water was sticking to itself and sticking to the water already on the lace as it travelled down it, and that's why it didn't drip off, okay? So it's that stickiness of water, its sticky properties, that cohesion, which kept it running down the lace into the glass where it's collected there nicely for us. As it was going down, that cohesive property was also forming a layer around the water as it was going. We call that layer a meniscus. It's like the surface of the water where it meets the air. And the cohesive forces on the surface where that meniscus is a bit different. They grip each other even more firmly, in fact. So in a funny sort of way, we've got like a tube of water travelling down that string into the glass. And as you saw, hardly any was pulled off by gravity straight down towards the table. Okay? Okay, so what other things could you try and see what's going to happen? Well, I've already given you a clue. Remember I said about the string being wet already? So what about if you tried it again using a piece of dry lace? So perhaps if you're going to do this again, hopefully you've got a spare one, or dry the one out you've already used. Use it totally dry and see what happens. Of course, I've used lace and you may not have had a bootlace. What about other types of string or rope? What about that? What about the angle? Did you notice I had a particular angle there? What about if you change the angle? Maybe if I brought the jug down and tipped it from, say, here, or much, much further up and tipped it from there. What about how straight the string was? Notice I kept it quite straight, didn't I? What about if I'd put a bend in it, maybe poured it like that, with a bend in the string? I wonder what that would have done. What about different thickness strings? Well, of course, that will depend on the string you're using, but you can actually get rope. What about using something that isn't flexible at all? What about, say, some sort of rod or stick? That'd be worth doing, wouldn't it? So a stick rather than that, so a bit of wood or something like that. And I'm sure you can think of some other things.